Hey folks, and how you doing? This is Claude again, and a lot of people have been asking me how to make Hollandaise sauce. So I figured I'd put a simple video together. This is the easiest way that I can think of making Hollandaise sauce. It's really not complicated, and it's pretty much foolproof. You don't have to worry about overheating your eggs and having them, end up in a scrambled mess. So pretty much there's 5 simple ingredients. Hollandaise sauce is simply butter, lemon juice, a little bit of water, an egg yolk, and some salt. I always add a little bit of cayenne pepper to give it a little bit of spicy taste, but that's optional. So if you want, we can get going and start a quick batch of Hollandaise sauce right now. So what you'll need is a saucepan or a bowl. I can use a saucepan over low heat just to get it more of an even heating surface. And what you do is you'll start your oven at a pretty low heat. You'll add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice that I've already squeezed and 2 tablespoons of water, which is already all together here. I'll put that in. You put in 1 egg yolk and about 4 tablespoons of butter. And again, this is the smallest batch you can make. If you're using 1 egg yolk, this is the batch, this is the recipe. If you want something a little bit bigger, you'd go for 2 egg yolks and double everything else. And that'll give you double the amount of Hollandaise sauce. So at this point, it's very simple. You're just going to stir everything in your saucepan and keep stirring for a good 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to cut out pretty soon because all there's going to be in this video is mostly stirring, so you don't want to watch me stir for 15 minutes. In the beginning, you'll have this lumpy butter, and that's okay. Just try to mush it down so that it all blends together, and eventually it will melt. So right now my saucepan is pretty cool, but it's heating up slowly, and that's what you want. You want to start it off at a very low heat and start your saucepan from a cool temperature, heating slowly. So that being said, I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. So if you look at the sauce right now, it just looks like a very liquidy egg yolk with butter melted into it. And that's basically all it is at this point. It'll go through phases where it'll change. And the next phase, it'll start frothing up a little bit. And in the last phase, it'll start thickening up. It will take a while, but keep stirring and you'll get there. So I had forgotten to put in my salt and cayenne pepper, which is the type of pepper that I recommend using because it blends very nicely into the sauce and you don't see the little pieces like you would with black pepper. So I just added them just now. You'll want about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a dash of cayenne pepper. You don't need that much, and you can add a little more pepper if you want. But I've just added mine in just now. You will need to add it at the beginning of the recipe, especially the salt. That's part of the recipe, and the pepper can be added pretty much anytime. But the main point of the recipe is you have to stir this continuously. Even if you feel that nothing's happening, just keep stirring. Make sure your heat is at a nice low temperature, but consistent, and keep stirring and you'll get there. Okay, so my sauce has entered the next stage, like I call it. If you look, it's pretty frothy right now. It's still very liquidy, but frothy. So the air is starting to be introduced into the liquid with the whip. I don't remember if I mentioned it, but you should be using a whip to mix your Hollandaise sauce. not just a regular spoon, you'll want a whip, and just keep stirring with the whip. Right now we have a frothy mixture, which will take a few more minutes, and I'll bring you back in when it changes into the next phase. Okay, so we're entering the final phase, I think, pretty soon here. My sauce has gotten very frothy, almost like an emulsion at this point, where the egg and the lemon juice and everything and the butter has all melded together and is starting to create is starting to form a sauce that can't be undone. So I can tell that it's starting to thicken up. It's become very frothy, and what I'm looking for is for the sauce to leave bare spots at the bottom of my saucepan, which will mean that it's gotten to a point where it's thick enough to hold its own. I don't want it too thick because the sauce will continue to cook after I take it off the fire. It will continue to heat on the inside of the saucepan. So I'm going to continue stirring until that point, and then I'll transfer it into a bowl, and you guys will be able to get a look at the final sauce. And in reality, you should make this just before you'll be serving it. You don't want to make it too far in advance because it should stay hot, it should stay warm, and you can't keep it over the fire because it'll just thicken to the point where it's just going to be too thick to use. But if you do make it a little bit in advance and it thickens where you want it to be a little less thick, you could always add some hot water to your recipe. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get my hot water ready right now in case I need it. And if you can look into the saucepan right now, you can see that this is becoming pretty thick. See how I move my whip and it's leaving bare patches. At this point, it's almost done. It might be another few seconds, and then that's it. Really not long. Once it starts to thicken up, it changes into that last phase in about 20 seconds, which is where I'm at now. That's about cooked, folks. That's about all you need. So here's your lovely Hollandaise sauce. And it really wasn't complicated. I've just turned off my stove top because I don't need any more heat. I just need to keep stirring. There you have it. Nice Hollandaise sauce. Not complicated. There's no risk of overcooking your eggs. And you can pour this over boiled eggs or salmon or asparagus or something of the sort. You know, fancy vegetables with this kind of sauce is always very nice. And here you have it, Hollandaise sauce. And I don't even need to add any hot water. It's very good like this. If you do put it aside, there you have it, folks. If you do put it aside and leave it on the counter and it thickens up, like I said, add some hot water to it, just maybe a tablespoon at a time, mix it up, and it'll come back into its creamy texture like you want it to have. So that's it for this recipe. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye-bye.